Alright guys, HyDra again, so I hope you're doing that and enjoying your take so far. One of the more prestigious awards in the history of esports arguably was given out last night, and Shotzzy found himself on the receiving end of it. He gave his own reaction and lots of discussion in the community, understandably, as to whether Shotzzy was the just deserving winner of this award, but especially after racking up his third world championship in Call of Duty and one back in Halo in 2018, it's hard to deny. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Some roster things to start out with. We discussed yesterday the Esports Nations Cup. Now, we talked about some countries that could potentially get a team. Of course, there'll be a team if there is Call of Duty there, from the US, from Canada. We think it's going to be the UK rather than England, Scotland, whatever. So that's 3. We could definitely get a French team, that's 4. Possibly we could have a Mexican team, that would be 5. You know, would there be enough talent in other South American countries? Possibly, possibly not. There's obviously a Spanish team that we could make. The Saudi Arabian team as well, I don't really think I mentioned yesterday, but obviously they could have a team. Don says maybe looking for 3 for Team Nigeria. So there's a few countries that we could keep in mind. If we could get 8 countries, I think that would be a compelling tournament. If we could get to 12, obviously Australia as well, I think that would be enough. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We've got a year and a bit to try and figure out if we can make it work. Dashy was saying, hey, Illy, come play for the Canadian team, whoever decides what the Canadian team is. Dashy was like, me, Karma, Illy, looking for one. And then he says, okay, down, I'm in. So, you know, assuming this tournament happens, it may not, of course. There's also been talk as to when aBeZy might get confirmed to his next team, because it's one of the least the top teams, the only confirmations we've really had so far, and presumably more will come very shortly. But aBeZy has officially gone from FaZe. They confirmed that the other day. aBeZy confirmed that as well. COD League say end of an era. It's going to feel really weird to see aBeZy not in a FaZe jersey, because that's just where he's belonged for, well, at least since the United days, of course, since the inception of the Call of Duty League. Now, apparently, Kaysen on stream was saying, look, it's sad that aBeZy left, but we know where he's going, and basically confirmed the rumours are true. So, yeah, he's probably going to be joining the Thieves. We'll talk in due course if aBeZy, HyDra, Scrap, +1, we think Kenny actually is a thing, how scary that team could be, what the upsides could be, what the downsides could be. But the other big story yesterday, of course, was around the Esports Awards. So, the Esports Awards, they confused me a bit, because they happen like simultaneously all of the time and at one specific time per year. Typically in like November, they used to do the award show. Nowadays, it's like 3 times a year. And maybe it makes sense for them, right? Because there's more exposure and stuff. But anyway, they were running the Esports Awards of the Decade this time. And a little while ago, there were the nominees that became public and people could vote. And I imagine the panel was involved as well in the decision making, because they put the nominees up there. And this is really considering the last 10 years. Obviously, when you think of decade, you think 2010s, 2020s. It sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying. The noughties, they call it, 2000 to 2009. So, you know, you think of it in that sense. Whereas I think what they're getting at is like, all right, in the last 10 years, which is a reasonable assessment of like where esports was back in, let's say, 2015 and where it is today, for good or for bad. You know, I think it's understandable to say, okay, 2025, in the last 10 years, who was, in many categories, the best performer. They did Publisher of the Year, of course that went to Riot Games, they always win it. They did, you know, all sorts of other awards, like Personality of the Decade, as this one we'll get into. They did like Host of the Decade, or I think that went to Shocks. They did Org of the Decade, that went to, I think, T1, right? So, you know, it was pretty cool to see. But the couple that we want to keep an eye on from a COD perspective were the Esports Personality of the Decade and the Esports Controller Player of the Decade. PC Player went to Faker. Should be no surprises there. So this was the list, and it's kind of remarkable how many of these individuals have been involved in COD, at least in some capacity. Not like there's that many of them, but just, okay, Nadeshot, Shocks, Faker, aBeZy, who of course, as we now know, is involved in COD with Koi. I mean, literally, it was only the other day he was tweeting at Real to say, hey, join my organization, please. Massive content creator. Scump was on here, then Fallen, Simple, Tarek, of course, all CS players. Tarek's gone on to do other things elsewhere now in Valorant. Hex made the list as well. No Brew, not really sure who that is. And then Cadril from the League of Legends side. So this is quite the awards, really. And the winner was crowned as Nadeshot. Nadeshot won it, Esports Personality of the Decade. And yeah, I think it's thoroughly deserved. I think without Nadeshot, the COD community would have looked so different without Nade. And what he's achieved in so many different regards is very impressive, right? I mean, 2015, if we're talking 10 years ago, he was still a player right at the start of 2015, right? And he was winning championships at that time. Then he stepped away. He took his, I mean, what do you call it, hiatus or whatever, from which, of course, he never returns. Left OpTic, started 100 Thieves, then kind of said, all right, we'll take a little bit of a break with 100 Thieves while I figure out what I want to do. Made it into kind of a powerhouse of esports and now has reinvented himself again to become one of the most entertaining streamers on the planet. So, yeah, Nadeshot, what a character. And without him, COD would just not be the same at all. So, look, you put him in the conversation with Scump and with Hex and with others. I think, you know, obviously you can debate it with some of the guys in the other esports as well. But I think that all things considered, from top to bottom, what Nadeshot's achieved, and also, like, from a personality perspective, always been thoroughly entertaining, but also has worn so many different caps over the years that I think this is thoroughly deserved. So, yeah, Nadeshot says, beyond grateful for the award. The other big award that we want to get into, though, was Esports Controller Player of the Decade. Now, this was even more competitive from a Call of Duty perspective, right? Because we've got Scump up for nomination, we've got Simp, Shotzzy, Formal, Kremp, they're all in there, all the big names from at least the competitive COD side, and there's other big names as well. Imperial Hal was nominated, you may know him from the drama over the last few days or elsewhere. Snakebite from Halo, Hungrybox, Sonic Fox, other big names as well. Now, the winner was probably always going to go to at least one of the Call of Duty guys, and it was probably going to be someone who'd done it across COD and Halo, across a couple of games. And, okay, if you're looking in the last decade, let's say Kremp, for example, lots of his success came in 2013, 2014. So while you could absolutely think about giving it to Kremp, if you just look at 2015 to 2025, or whatever you want to say, 2016, 2025, you take a 10-year period, whatever, then Kremp doesn't quite stack up to the same level. Maybe that hurts Scump just a touch as well, but, you know, 2015 was where him and Formal and Kremp did a lot of their winning, but Kremp did a fair bit of winning before that as well. So maybe that's something to consider. I don't really know how people were kind of characterizing this in their minds, but I thought that the favorites here were always going to be Shotzzy and Formal, really. I thought that Formal could have been and would have been an absolutely justified winner, because the reason why I kind of liked the Formal pick is because he has done it across that entire decade, right? Like, you kind of want to give a winner, in my opinion, of the player of a decade. Not to say that Shotzzy isn't deserving, we'll get to it in a second, but I think you'd want to give the winner to someone who's done it across that entire 10-year span. If you're going to give it to someone over the last decade, it would be nice that they were competing at the start of the decade and are still competing today, which applies to Formal. He was winning championships in 2015 and he's still winning championships today. So, you know, that's, and also the success that he's had over that time period is undisputed. Yeah, he did retire for a few months, right, after the Cold War season, but then he came back to Halo straight away and he's been competing that entire time. So, you know, that's why Formal was a compelling case, but I think you can also undeniably say that Shotzzy is also a deserving winner of this award, because the controller player of the decade goes to Shotzzy, and I'll share a couple of minutes here of his reaction, because they had to sit down, I guess, all of the nominees and do a little speech to say, like, what would happen if they won, and it turned out Shotzzy won, and he didn't really want to watch it back.
Holy shit, I've never said, I don't know why. I really hope I don't win. I know that's insane to say, but I'm not trying to see myself right now. There ain't no way to me. Ain't no fucking way.
Shotzzy!
Fuck! No, I ain't trying to see my interview. No way. Yo, I'm out here.
Controller player of the decade.
Yo, let me know what it's done.
From Scump, Formal, and everyone else on the list. Truly a blessing. I literally watched these guys growing up, and, you know, seeing these guys next to my name and me getting picked is honestly surreal. All these guys deserve this award as much as I do. And yeah, shout out OpTic from especially my teammates, Kremp, Scump, Formal. They're always just breeding talent. It's no coincidence that these guys are on top of this list as well. And we're all striving for the same goal. And I know there's a lot of championships coming. And of course, my family, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here without you, Mom. And, you know, my brother's back home supporting as always. And shout out Aubrey, my girlfriend. She's always been with me side by side, and she understands how time consuming gaming is. And she's always been, able to just support me and always be right by my side. I was a little kid once, just playing to play, and I would always want to become a pro player, and to be able to win this award in front of, you know, all you guys, and it's a dream come true, honestly. I know my inner child would be proud of myself, and if I had to say anything for, you know, the young gamers, just keep on gaming, and you never know what gaming could take you. And once again, it's an honor winning Controller Player of the Decade. Hopefully I keep showing out for you guys, and I keep putting on a show. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations to Shotzzy, a man who is an absolute demon with a controller in his hands. Won championships in both Halo and
Yo, W in the fucking chat, baby. Yo, I swear to God, I actually didn't know if, like, I swear, I actually didn't know. On God, I actually didn't know I won. I swear to God.
4 times world champion, 1 in Halo in 2018, 3 in Call of Duty, 2020, 2024, 2025, MVP at the World Championship twice over, CDL MVP 1 time. $6 million is like for his teams. I think his actual individual prize winnings are 1.3 million if you correct it to just him, but you know, it's still not bad going at the end of the day. And yeah, as a result, there was a bit of talk about it, right? The superstar, as it were, because it's obviously Aches has had this thing over the last couple of seasons about whether Shotzzy's a superstar, and look, Aches doesn't need any more attention. We know that he gets enough attention from giving these takes time after time. He knows what he's doing, and he's not gonna, like, let's say, back down on that opinion anytime soon. But obviously all the data from this season, at least towards the end of the year, points towards Shotzzy being kind of a superstar in basically every single department, right? Like, superstar also, in my opinion, goes beyond just gameplay as well. There's more to it than that, and it's stuff like this, it's the stream, it's the face of the brands, those are the things that contribute to being a superstar, and Shotzzy just ticks every single box, but obviously Aches probably does see it that way, but pretends that he doesn't. It is what it is. People are going to say, look, well, if he's not a superstar, what's this about, right? Controller player of the decade? Like, this guy, is Scump a superstar? Like, is Formula superstar? You know, how could Shotzzy be not a superstar, if he just beat those guys out in this award? As Shotzzy says, appreciate everyone that voted for me. Thanks to everyone supporting me throughout my career, and to many more. And that's the other thing, right? Shotzzy just won Controller Player of the Decade. This guy is 24 years old. Like, I think he's still 24. So, like, kind of remarkable to think about that. I mean, a decade ago, he was 14, 15, depending on your perspective on what the decade is. And he's won the decade player at 24, and he could have another, I mean, what, how many years competing? Could he go to, you know, probably go to 30? Could he go to 32? Depends what Shotzzy wants to do. Obviously, you can never predict the future in that sense. But it feels like Dashy has many years left if he wants it. And he's like nigh on the oldest player in the league now at like 27 or something, right? Which is young, but you know what I'm saying. Dashy could go on for many more years, I think, and Shotzzy in a very similar story. So, I mean, the funny thing is, could he win Controller Player of the Decade in a decade's time, right? 2035, could Shotzzy have also been the best player of the previous decade? Unlikely, but you never know. Even the likes of Formal said about Shotzzy that when all is said and done, he might just be the best player to ever do it. And that was good gas, and that was before Shotzzy won a lot of what he has won. Now, of course, there's going to be a debate about whether it should have been Formal. As I say, I think you can argue it either way. Shotzzy, yeah, he didn't play for that entire decade, but he won 4 world championships in that period across 2 different franchises, and Call of Duty, it's across different titles. So that's incredibly compelling. Formal's won 2 world championships, also very impressive. 2017 in COD, 2022 in Halo, won numerous other events, won numerous finals, and yeah, also one of the most impressive players. So there was some debate on it. Did Formal get robbed? Was Shotzzy deserving? Both of them would absolutely have been deserving, in my opinion. I can totally see why Shotzzy won it. I think Shotzzy might be the correct answer to this as well. It's interesting your opinion, because you might say, well, Shotzzy won more in less time, which is true and very impressive, but also, you know, Formal did it the whole decade, whatever you want to say, I don't know. Imperial Hal just fell to his knees after Shotzzy beating him again, so people are jumping on the bandwagon as always. But yeah, very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. And I think Maven knew what he was doing here. We know that he's had a bit of beef with some OpTic fans this season, not with OpTic as an org. I think Maven's very clear that, like, you know, he's obviously a big fan of OpTic gaming, but I think he knew what he was doing here, throwing on the OpTic jersey and rage baiting a few replies. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.